Today we're going to be talking about Miraidon with the upgrades from the Paradox Rift expansion. At the Latin American International Championships it got first place, and it even achieved a 9th place finish from the same player at the Gdansk Regional Championships. Yes, Juho Kalama has been leading the way with Miraidon. We've actually seen success in a few different iterations, but this is the list that I've landed on the most. I do believe Path to the Peak is the best stadium card to be going for. Although Beach Court does give you extra percentages to donk and get very early ampy very much pressure, I do believe that having Path as well as Judge and Iono in the deck list gives you so many more defensive plays against Charizard most notably, but also can be really handy against Entei Valiant, can be good in the mirror match situations, and can also be solid into Mew at times. These are all some of the weaker matchups for Miraidon, but having Path and these hand disruptors in quite high counts actually, I believe is the best way to see success with Miraidon. There are a couple big updates from Paradox Rift. Obviously Iron Hand ZX is the big one. That amp you very much attack for 1 lightning and 3 colorless, yes, is very expensive, but taking an additional prize card is so worth it. This card, especially alongside Bravery Charm, is a nightmare for Gardevoir players to deal with, as well as certain Lost Zone builds. It can just really snowball out of control if it's not immediately dealt with, and it's a fantastic option to have in the deck. To try and help accommodate the Iron Hand ZX, we are playing 1 copy of Double Turbo Energy. I've kind of danced between 1 and 2 copies, honestly. I do think the card is very, very strong. Just getting that banked early if you've gone first with Iron Hands is phenomenal. Also, there's upside of having Double Turbo Energy with Mew EX. Suddenly now we can Genome Hack in many more situations. By having 1 Dynamotor plus turn attachment of DTE, we could find situations where you can Genome Hack all sorts of Pokemon in the game right now. I especially think it's solid, of course, into Radiant Greninja. Even with the reduction of damage, 70 is still a really crucial threshold for Lost Zone players, and it can be another way against Gardevoir actually to take multi-prize turns in the opening stages. And let's face it, not many archetypes are going to proactively put down Manaphy against you, because spread isn't really associated with the Miraidon players, and with so many other attacking threats in the deck, they're already going to be preoccupied with some of your other threats. Pre-Paradox Rift, we used Flying Pikachu V as our free retreat lightning pivot, but we have moved over to Zeraora as well. Essentially, Battle Claws just become more and more valuable. That 30 damage poke for 1 lightning can be really solid into Roaring Moon, and it throws a single prize Pokemon into the mix, but also because Gardevoir is more and more popular, having a 1 energy 60 prod can also be very handy. The opponent is going to heavily damage their Gardevoir, so using a Zeraora as a single prize offset card can be really handy, especially again because we are playing 4 hand disruption cards and 2 Path to the Peak. You can really make the Gardevoir have to have all sorts of combinations going on in the hand, otherwise they're going to be forced through a single prize Pokemon, and that can give you a lot more time. A few other things to note here. I am playing a couple copies of Judge as well as 2 Iono. Now, Juho's successful list is just playing 3 copies of Iono. It does see more cards in the opening stages than Judge, of course, but I do think having the hand disruption in these opening stages, specifically against Charizard and Lost Zone box, is really, really valuable. I rate both these archetypes pretty highly. They've been top cutting in multiple events between the LAIC and these regional championships so far, so I still really like the option of limiting their hand size quite quickly and having early tempo plays from Lightning Rondo. That was really how Miraidon got around some of its more awkward matchups in the past, and even though Ampy very much can really turn the tables on the opponent quickly in some of these situations, I still like having the defensive plays. Lost Vacuums come into the deck list. It can be an Arven searchable means of us bouncing Path to the Peak in other Path matchups, but it's also really handy for getting rid of Bravery Charm in the mirror, can get rid of Ancient Booster Capsule against Roaring Moon, can also be pretty handy against Entei Valiant as well if they're going to be playing Bravery Charms. It's a really nice versatile card, and at the very least it can be a -2 from hand to keep us drawing cards with Restart. Another tiny min-max I'm trying to go for here is 1 Switch card and 1 Switch. The card is still handy. There are situations where you can Bravery Charm the likes of your Raikou and take an early prize against Charizard, then thanks to the Bravery Charm you actually tank a hit, but of course we know that Lost Vacuum is a card played in Charizard, so having Switch Card can then deny the easy Lost Vacuum prizes for them later. Additionally, sometimes there are going to be Lost Zone players that look to go cram into Sableye. Having Switch Card on Iron Hands can offset some math, plus Switch Card could be handy against some Valiant variants that are trying to ping down even some of your single prize Pokemon at times. over a number of turns, so having the cart to offset their damage can be pretty handy. And again, cart plus Bravery Charm is just a big combo that could still be handy against the Valiant players. But I am choosing to just play one Switch now, and that's because Gardevoir is still a really popular and prevalent deck, and oftentimes their window back into the game is using Countercatcher Iono Screamtail to take prizes on your other Pokemon whilst Flaaffy sits trapped. In this list, we have 2 Rope, 1 Switch, 1 Turbo, Forest Sealstone, and Arven. So we still do have a good number of outs in this situation when the opponent is making the panic plays. Ideally, you have Restart from Mew still established on the board as well. So there should be opportunities for you to find an out to the trap, but it is something that I'm slightly aware of. There are a few other cards that you might be seeing within the battle section of this video. I have been experimenting with 1 copy of Pokegear. It's an ace spec card that I've liked in the deck in previous iterations, pre-Paradox Rift, and that's because it just gives you extra reach towards boss's orders, or gives you extra reach towards your disruption supporters. I do feel like in the mid-game for Miraidon, you're basically always wanting to play either a hand disruptor or a boss. It's pretty much just those 2 cards. And research, yes, it could be handy if you're just digging towards like a piece for game, but really it's there for the opening stages to give you that push, and then it falls off towards the mid to late where you'd rather be doing one of these other things. At the moment, I haven't found a way to wiggle it back into the deck list, but it's certainly a card that's on my radar. The other thing that you may notice is that in a number of the games, I'll be playing no Super Rod and just an extra copy of Double Turbo. Again, it's a juggling act that I'm trying out right now. I think Rod is overall just the safer choice. It allows you to squawk or research away key pieces, knowing that you have the fallback of Rod to recover certainly some of your attackers, the likes of Zapdos and whatnot. These are great Pokemon to have at the right situation, but not necessarily immediately onto the board. I think it's most important for the likes of Raichu, where you never really want to play an extra copy, but if you do get rid of it early, you do lose a key attacking threat in the deck, so having this Rod seems like the best choice overall. And of course, if you have some awkward energy discards, you can try and reload and improve your ratios for late game generator if that's required as well. Overall, I do think Miraidon's very well placed in the metagame. Really, the worst matchups, I would say, are going to be the likes of Mew. Outside of that, you have game plans against most other archetypes. It can be tricky, but you do have the pieces, and at least you have tempo and draw power at your disposal. And sometimes, like I said, Ampy very much just is a step too far. Early aggression just in general can be really good against a number of archetypes if they're not drawing too hot. So I do think this deck has answers to most things in format, and it's one of the more consistent performers right now. So wouldn't surprise me if it remains sort of among the top 3 or 4 decks throughout this metagame. Let me know what you think about the archetype and the deck list in front of you, and enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the PoTown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code, OmniPoke. Right, we get to go first in game number 1. We have Mareep and Raichu. It's actually a bit of a tougher call these days because there is the Iron Valiant around of what you want to have in the active spot, but with those generators, I wanted to keep the Raichu benched, and of course we're going first, so I could somewhat react to what my opponent was playing. We were able to forest out Miraidon, and we're just going to grab some Lightning Chaps to kick things off. And then we, with better ratios now, can attempt some generators. I see a Minior. I think Minior is only really going to be limited to a couple of decks. Oh, we whiffed double generator. That is pretty rough, actually. We're going to switch into Raikou to get some fleet-footed cards. Ultra Ball's pretty decent for next turn. It opens up Mew EX for us to start drawing. So that's at least something. But yeah, seeing Minior made me think immediately that it was probably Charizard, and we're seeing confirmation of that now with the Pidgey coming down and Rotom. Rotom got a Forest Seal Stone. And then VIP comes out from the forest. So our opponent's getting fairly well developed here. And they're going to end on the instant charge. Seems like pretty good fodder for this Ultra Ball for the Mew. Just double checking that it's in the deck. So we will grab Mew EX and restart for 3. Iono's not too bad. The opponent did top up on cards with the charge, so we are just going to +1 them right now. Do get into Flaaffy, which is okay. I don't think there's many lightning in the bin right now. And there's definitely debate to us not taking the prize here. Oh wow, especially with the double hit from Generator. One prize is a bit rubbish, honestly. So I choose to pass here rather than go for a 1 prize KO, because if we allow Charizard to have the 210 threshold, they have a really easy bounce back for us. And my board's just not ready for a Charizard to be swinging into our V and EX Pokemon just yet, so choose to pass that. I think that is important sometimes with this archetype to establish more energy around the board against Charizard when you can, because it does seem pretty strong. The opponent ended up just whiffing candy combinations, so they go Charmeleon. We end up picking up the Bravery Charm, so I feel a bit more confident going for a Rondo now. Makes a bit more sense, because I'm still out of range of a Charizard. It would force the Lost Vacuum now at least, so do end up starting to put the pressure on a little bit more here. But yeah, the sort of timing and making sure you keep up on attachments so Raichu can actually get through a Charizard, these are things that I had in mind when I passed there. The opponent, quite unfortunate to still have no candy combination. They just, again, end on instant charge, so that's going to give me an extra attack option here. And we are going to come in with Ampy very much. Again, bit of a debate there. I could just try and hit again and sit on the 240 threshold and then have the 250 with the Bravery Charm. But this way I'm saying that I can win quite comfortably in 2 attacks via Rotom plus a single Prizemon or a Charizard KO with a Raichu play at some point in the game. That's kind of the idea here. We eventually see Mysterious Tail for Candy. And Pidgeot does come online. The path is in play right now. It should be okay. You'll notice that in some of these lists I am trying the double turbo. I've been between 1 and 2 copies, honestly. I have since ended up on 1 count. I'm going to put double turbo, I think, onto Mew here. And the opponent just wasn't able to do much under the path, fortunately. So we're able to amp you very much. So despite a late Pidgeot coming online, the path was just blocking them a little bit, which is pretty good. Most of the time, well, most of the game, our opponent's just been missing pieces here and there. So pretty fortunate game for us, to be honest with you. But I mostly wanted to show this game to talk about the choice to not just bundle in with a Raikou, take a single prize KO, because when your board's not established for it, it's just going to end up punishing you. You'll notice in this list as well, I'm also trying Pokegear. It's a card that I've liked in previous builds of Miraidon, so it's something that I've had, again, in and out of the list. Currently out of the list, but it's probably going to help us here, where I can push towards boss. Yeah. This is exactly why I like Pokegear, actually, because it can help you close game. Although we don't actually have game right now. I could have... yeah, we're going for the Mew for 2 here. Just need energy for win, yeah. I was thinking I could have fleet-footed before the boss, but I was drawing from restart first. Yeah, so I am still making tweaks to the deck list. But I mostly, yeah, wanted to show that sometimes passing is preferable against Charizard until you have your Bravery Charms established. Until you have yeah, enough energy scattered around multiple threats so that when a Charizard does come in, you're not just on panic stations trying to scramble for more generators. Kind of worked out because they just started Minior as well. Would have been an expensive retreat for them. We're going into the next game. We have that Squawk start, and we have Miraidon. Going to unit out some of the chaps. We are a lot less subtle in this matchup, in that we don't really care so much about the high hit point, like shenanigans of Bravery Charm and Switch Cart and whatnot. It's much more about let's get this hands rolling as quickly as possible. That's why you see an early attachment, and then we hit double generator, so hands is already very much in play here and threatening the opponents. Because I have Switch in hand, I do just retreat into Miraidon here as well, so that I'm protecting my free retreat Pokemon. Because Cram is very often the early attack from our opponent, so that seems good. Our opponent has double VIP pass, and it shows that they are going to be playing Roaring Moon, at least. We start to see some flower selectings now. Get rid of Pokegear, going to see Rope. I'm going to stick with the same logic and go into my other Miraidon. Not wanting to give the opponent the easy Spit Innocently prize. I can see a Chorus now. Gets rid of Gate and Lightning. So that means they're probably playing hands as well as the other... Sorry, as well as Moon. There's more selecting. Switch card comes in, and it is going to be a cram hit. Water onto Roaring Moon as well, so this is maybe the Tord deck. Looking at the type energies. But it's looking like a pretty easy Iron Hands play here, honestly. Just debating whether or not I should have bossed versus the research here for the reload. We can begin to generate some backup attacking options here. And just go into the Ampy very much. Definitely a really good pressurizing card against the Lost Zone players. There is a potential Roaring Moon response here, but then I could finish off the Roaring Moon with Battle Claw, which could be pretty solid. So we're lining up a few prizes here with the threat of Iron Hands. See another Chorus. That gets them to gate range, I'm pretty sure. Yep, the Mirage Gates are next. Dark and Water to the active so they can retreat. Going to see Nest Ball as well. See some more selects. See Switch cart into the Roaring Moon. Turn attach for the Gouge play. Oh, they can PAL pad a couple Chorus. 15 cards in that deck already. They have motored through pretty quickly. Pretty dangerous. Yeah, it is going to be the Frenzied Gouging. So our plan is pretty much just going to be either Iono or Judge here, plus Battle Claw. I'm going to Judge. I didn't really want to Iono all my supporters to the bottom of the deck, so we go down that route. Still haven't found a Flaaffy, which is a bit frustrating, but we're down to 2 attacks remaining. And we're representing a single prizer, so we're in pretty good shape here. Let's see some selectings come in. But it does find the Stadium Bounce. Not an easy choice here from the Escape Rope. I'm going to go for Raikou, thinking that if the opponent does have to use a 2-prize Pokemon, it's likely that a Miraidon is going to be the best response for me. I didn't want to give them the easy, like, Rod reload cram into the other Miraidon EX. Also didn't want the Iron Hands 3-prize play on Squawk or the 2-prize play on my 1-prizes. Here comes the Palkia. Oh, wow. Here comes Koga. They're at 1 card in the deck. Oh, no. Out of nowhere. One Pokestop, 1 Chorus later. They've actually got to the bottom. And look at this. Super Rod. Puts 3 more back in. Another Mirage Gate. They've managed to Aquastorm. They had 18 cards left. And they were able to Kyogre me. Yeah, wow, I felt pretty safe there, honestly. But sometimes Kyogre gets there. Pretty gross. I was really impressed by that, actually. Looking back at that game, that... Yeah, it turns out just Chorus every turn. And Pokestop twice, and you actually get to the bottom. Pretty intense. That was even after a Judge as well. I felt really safe, but... sometimes safe isn't everything. We're coming up against Entei now. This is a pretty interesting matchup because you're trying to limit your bench here. Well, I'm trying to limit my bench here as to not play into Burning Rondo. And obviously, we can't really go in with Raikou ourselves because that means our opponent can play around our damage output. So we're going to use Miraidon. It's also a matchup where it's super sketch for us to try using our Flaaffy. So it's going to put a lot of emphasis on us actually hitting generators this game. as they begin to tack you on bits. We see a research from them, see Forest Seal Stone. Pretty good starts. They have Squawk as well. They can get both Tachyon bits down. Looks like they're just setting up REXs and Vs here. Interesting, they had Serena in their deck. Let's see, Fleet-footed. Oh, sorry, that's the Forest Seal Stone for Basin, so they can come in with an attack here. More Tachyon bits, just going on to Miraidon on the bench. One more Fleet-footed. They get a nice early KO here. Good turn for them. So we do have a fairly decent response lined up here. We're just going to go Miraidon Zap and keep thinning with our units. Somewhat of a debate to get the Mareep in the mix because I'm looking to Judge this turn. And we do opt for it in the end. Generator does hit, so now we just need to hit energy off the Judge. Which we fortunately do, and we hit the Stadium Bump, so this is a really good 4 cards for us here. To come in with a response KO, and hope that the path can be a frustration for them now. Straight away they have the bounce though, so that's not going to be a huge issue. Nest Ball can come in as well. For Moltres, interesting. So they have more than just Radzard in their deck as a single prize attacker. We see some Tachyon bits onto Mareep, which is a bit worrying. More Tachyon bits, and then a switch card back into Entei. So our opponent had a really good response from that Judge there. A really good response. We have a lot of work to do now. Sheesh. Yeah, this is really bad. We're probably going to have to just sit behind the Zeraora for a turn and hope for the best. We are using Iono for 2 cards. Generator could pop off, but it whiffs. Ugh, man, not even any Flaaffy, so this Mareep could go down, and then the whole 1 prize sponge thing doesn't work. So we have a panic draw, and we hit Flaaffy. Okay. So we can actually go back into Zeraora now. It's not much, but it's something. It's something, all right. Radar just boots a VIP. That's fine. That's just dead. See, Fleet-footed. Base into Molt. Just the Rondo. Well, they didn't have Boss. I can respond on the Entei now and Iono to 1. So, honestly, from this board state, it's winnable. It's definitely winnable. Just going to fail the tandem unit. Draw 1 from restarts. Iono to 4. We're just going to come in with the big blaster. Didn't get a Stadium Bump, which is a shame, because Radzard could come in and ruin our day, but only 1 card, only 2 cards from the top deck. See, switch Tachyon bits. And just swinging with Moltres. We don't win on the spot because we have to... Actually, I do. Yeah, I can Dynamite or attach and boss. So after a very precarious start and them doing really well off the Judge, the Iono finally got there. Does seem really important to have the hand disruptors in these racing matchups, to be honest with you. And Path, rather than just Beach Court. That's why I still really am backing Path in the list. That and for Charizard to give you more defensive plays. Let's get another game in. Up against another Charizard. You can get a tandem unit in. The hand's not ideal. Could try and get some like Mew EX draw, or we could go a little slower, get double, yeah, 1 Flaaffy in the prizes, so we just need to get 1. We can get the double turbo onto hands, which is looking good. We can get Squawking now. That's a really nice... Well, it's actually a pretty poor hand for next turn, but especially when the generator misses. But I do have an Iron Hands lined up. I can take out... I can go Flaaffy Attach, Amp you. It's like, it's a good and bad play in many ways, because when you do it, then you know that your opponent's straight away at 240 damage, and that's a scary threshold. See Ultra Ball from the opponent's going to get that Rotom developed. Artisan, probably for Pidgey here, you would think, or Bidoof. That's definitely Pidgey, right? Oh, it's going to be Mew, interesting. And then just the instant charge. Well, looks like we have not much else going on in the hand, so we're just going to try and take prizes as our draw engine. Pick up a couple supporters, that's nice. It's something. But again, it has accelerated this Charizard, which is scary. I often like taking a single prize into Zard first with either Miraidon or at least a Bravery Charmed Raikou. That's normally my preferred map. Or just using Battle Claw on a Pidgey is also a great play. Knowing that you can sort of clear up your prizes later with Iron Hands. But here we are. The opponent's bouncing back with Arven to Rare Candy Zard here as well. The good news is they have put Fish down and Rotom, so there are some easy prizes around this board. As Charizard's getting online now to just respond on the Iron Hands. Pretty much as expected. At least we have the Iono from prizes. I think the plan now is just, you can see I've already attached. I want to try and set this Charizard up for a Raichu play. The hand's not looking great for it, though, anyway. Let's see how the Iono has done. Ideally, they just take a single prize KO here. Oh, they have Forest Seal Stone. So they Arven for Forest, then didn't put it into play. Then got Iono'd into their other forest? That's so wild. See another candy into Zard now as well. So things are looking pretty rough. And then they go down to zero card hand, but they do boss Raichu, which is really sketch for us now. Yeah, really not ideal. We pick up Arven, which is kind of interesting. I could now Raikou plus Bravery Charm at 250 hit points. Punch into the Zard. Hope he has to just punch me back, because they just have a random 2-card hand now. If I do that, then I can finish it off with a Battle Claw from Zeraora, and then look to boss the game. I guess that's our, like... It's a long and winding road, but it's our 3-attack game plan to win. We definitely have to get through this Zard, and we have to do it with a 1-prize Mon. So this is the way we do it, by rondoing for not enough with Bravery Charm. Hope that we tank a turn, then Battle Claw again, and then boss the game is the plan. Okay, so step 1's worked. We've tanked a hit, which is excellent. We pick up a Path as well, which is actually massive. Does hurt some outs now. We can retreat into Zeraora and finish off the Zard. So, again, we're forcing boss from our opponent. They've just got a top deck and 3 random cards. We know that one of them isn't boss, otherwise they would have bossed last turn. Mysterious Tail can't beat us, I don't think. We're not worried about too much. Rope is fine. It would make us go Flaaffy, which is ugly. Yeah, Rope does make us go Flaaffy. Alright, they're just going to go in with... I don't know why they didn't Zard KO there. I guess they don't want me to have just boss game. Yeah, that's reasonable. So we have to work towards a way to finish off this... Oh, sorry, to move Flaaffy now. So we are going to research. Does have to get rid of a boss, which is a shame. Do hit a generator, which is fine. Get a Dynamotor. to Miraidon. I'm just going to come in with the Battle Claw. This might make the opponent going into Mew more risky. They may just have to go Zard now. Okay, they are going Zard. So it's whether or not they have the boss. And we've been dodging it for a while. And it's just a Burning Darkness. I don't actually have game in hand. We do still have Rope, though. We don't top deck boss. The research wasn't all that kind to us. So now it's going to come down to us having Rope for game. It's a big Judge. And hey, we do get there. So things got a bit murky in that mid game, but it is, again, just a nod towards the Bravery Charms. They're cards that I've like tried to cut down on in the past, but I am like solidly back up to the 2 count. It's something you'll have seen in some of these lists where I was playing 2 double turbo, and when I was playing the Poké Gear, that's had to be sacrificed for the second Bravery Charm, because I think it's just so massive into Charizard. Getting into another Lost Box matchup, we have the units I can attach to Iron Hands. It's a really good hand that we're sat on as well. I can, like, again, tandem unit next turn, have better odds of this generator. It's all looking really good. The hand could have been way faster as well. If I wanted to have just gone, like, generator Squawk, could have been okay, but honestly, I was really happy, like, holding Flaaffy, getting my attachments, having Arven available for, like, any individual pieces that I needed. So I was happy taking a slightly slower approach. The only weakness of it is that Rope was a bit awkward because now Hands is pushed into the active. I did debate going unit for another Miraidon, then get tandem unit for Hands that way round, but now I can go for Arven Rope if I want to. Yeah, the Rope was a little bit awkward for us. We're just going to take Switch. I can then go into Fleet-Footed with the Beach Court. Do pick up Path, which is a nice bounce. Units. I think I want to keep these options. Generator does hit the double, so now Hands is really raring to go. Also going to start getting Raikou as our backup attack rolling. But Iron Hands is certainly threatening. Yes, a Sableye can come in and respond on the Iron Hands, but I think the opponent's only at 5 in the Lost Zone, or 4. So it still would be a lot to get through Iron Hands by now. Clara hits the Lost Zone. Going to be a Rope, and whenever you're roping around Hands, that's good news for us. Although, obviously, they're looking to Sableye anyway. Beach Court comes back in. More selectings. I guess with Beach Courts, it means it's more of like a Sable Zard. Counter catcher for Flaaffy. They're desperately trying to buy some time. We can Ultra Ball, get Mew EX into the mix, and then we're just going to research. I do have Forest Seal Stone if I want to get anything, but I do just hit second double turbo to retreat here. And Thank You Very Much Pressure just does it again, basically. It's so good against some Lost Zone builds, it really makes them draw well. I think this is our final game of the day. Because I just play a lot of Miraidon anyway, I had like a decent amount of games over the last couple of days with it, so that's why you're seeing a decent smorgasbord of games here. Gonna start off against Mew this time, and we can Ultra Ball for the unit, start getting the chaps developed. We can just unit again here for the next Flaff, or Mareep I should say. Fleet-Footed Rod's a bit of an awkward draw. And we're just going to end on the path to the peak here and hope that it can randomly grief Mew. Mew's a really tough matchup for us. Path is kind of our only defense in the matchup, I want to say. Oh, we see VIP, Forest Seal Stone. Yikes. Yeah, Mew is definitely one of the hardest matchups for Miraidon, I would say. Of the meta stuff. We do see Sparkle. Oh, Oh no! Oh, they've kept Path in play and managed to sparkle KO. That is maximum tempo, maximum cool. That is so rough. Well, I can make a Flaaffy at least, and I can research. We draw into a ton of our energy. Still hit from Generator though. That's something. Means I can reply on the Meloetta. That's, yeah, it's a decent response here. And hope that the opponent going max tempo punishes them now. With the Path still in play and only one Genesect out. Oh, no! What? This is such a goofy game. Path is still in play and they just naturally had 4 Fusion Energy, Tablet, VMAX. What is that? What is that? We're gonna panic boss. Wow, double Meloetta in their list. And yes, finally Path does something. My goodness. Alright, we're gonna start, well, continue to flood our board of energy now. Let's try and move this Mareep out, this Flaaffy out of here as well. All these energy scattered around the board is good for a Raichu play, let's not forget, so. Oh boy, now they have the Stadium Bounce at last. Uh-oh. See, Box of Disaster. Iono, that's good for us. Oh, they're going wide. They're getting everything. They're back. They have played a supporter already, though, so they can't boss us this turn. They'd have to go down to 1. And I am holding Iono. Maybe this all works out. Maybe it's all going to be okay. Ultra Ball, they're doing a ton of thinning now. Use their second Fusion Strike system. Max Miracle, okay. So, we already have 6 energy in play. Tandem Unit's back. Raichu's actually off the top, which was the Pokemon I would have gone for anyway. But we can Iono, and we can Forest Seal Stone for Path. Generator hits, that's fine. Yeah, I think it's going to be Iono to 1, Path, and hope. Oh, we drew Path anyway. So I can hold Forest for game for next turn. Alright, okay. I don't need to... Yeah, I don't need to Alchemy for anything. If Raichu goes down, we lose. We'll just swing for the 3-10. The 80 damage doesn't matter because they already had Belt on the benched Mew. Let's see if they can survive the Iono Path to 1. Knowing our opponent, they probably have the perfect combination of cards. VMAX. Catcher. That's Tails anyway. It would have just been a trapping play. And a pass. So, wow. Somehow we bounced back from our opponent's gruesome opener of just having all the actual perfect cards required. Fortunately, the Town Store enabled us to have this fallback of Iono Path, which was incredible. You're typically going to struggle against the new players, to be honest with you, but Path is our only real defense. That's kind of why I really think the Path is fantastic. Yeah, a lot of good games. I've played a lot of Miraidon recently. I've played it at some regionals and cups and such, so it's something I'm accustomed to. It still seems like a really solid deck, and I feel like the Path does keep the most well-rounded matchup spread, and I think it's the best way to go. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.